Chapter 1. The Revolution Comes Full Circle. We've reached the end of an epic journey on the Shadow Carapace. I'm Slipturtle, your shadow diving host, and this is What If, the Declassified Chronicles, Episode 6, Cold War Rebalanced. Let's recap the saga. Episode 1, November 22nd, 1963. JFK survives the Dallas assassination attempt, uncovers deep state involvement, and vows to dismantle it. Episode 2, 1964. He guts the CIA, splitting it into smaller agencies. Episode 3, 1965. He pulls out of Vietnam, dodging a decade-long war. Episode 4, 1966. He shakes hands with Cuba's Fidel Castro, thawing Cold War tensions. Episode 5, 1967. He ousts FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, turbocharging civil rights. Now, in 1968 and beyond, Kennedy's string of wins, diplomatic and domestic, rebalances the Cold War, reshaping the world for decades. With the deep state humbled, Kennedy's vision of peace and justice takes center stage. What does this mean for the global order and America's future? Let's dive into this alternate 1968 and beyond to find out. Here we go. Chapter 2. Kennedy's Cold War Playbook. Kennedy's always been a peacemaker. His 1963 limited test ban treaty with the Soviets was a start, banning nuclear tests in the atmosphere. In our timeline, his death stalled that momentum. Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon leaned on military might, escalating Vietnam and proxy wars. But here, Kennedy's alive in his second term, ending in 1969. With the CIA tamed, Vietnam avoided, Cuba friendly, and the FBI reformed, he's got the clout to push détente further. In June 1968, he meets Soviet Premier Alexei Kosygin in Vienna, 2 years earlier than our timeline's 1972 saltwater talks. They sign a speculative arms reduction pact, cutting nuclear stockpiles by 15%, building on the test ban treaty's goodwill. Kennedy's speech echoes his 1963 American University address. We must seek a peace that benefits all mankind. At home, his approval might hit 75%, up from 63% pre-Dallas, per Gallup, thanks to no war, civil rights gains, and global respect. The deep state's old guard from Episode 2 can't touch him. He's untouchable. Chapter 3. The Soviet Decline. Accelerates Kennedy's diplomacy, shifts the Cold War. Let's speculate. The Soviet Union, already strained by 1968, faces new pressure. With Cuba less dependent on Soviet aid, thanks to U.S. sea trade from Episode 4, Moscow loses leverage in Latin America. Kennedy's arms deal undercuts their military buildup, less cash for proxy wars in Africa or the Middle East. The USSR's economy, creaking under central planning, buckles faster. Let's say the decline that led to its 1991 collapse in our timeline starts by 1985. Eastern Europe feels it. Without a US bogged down in Vietnam, Kennedy ramps up Radio-Free Europe broadcasts, inspiring uprisings. Think a speculative 1986 Prague Spring that succeeds, toppling Soviet control early. The Berlin Wall might fall by 1987, not 1989, as Kennedy's soft power, diplomacy, not bombs, wins the ideological war. The deep state's hawks, itching for conflict, are sidelined. Kennedy's peace-first approach is rewriting the global script. Chapter 4. U.S.-China, Ties and Global Shifts. Kennedy's Cold War rebalance opens other doors. More speculation here. China, under Mao Zedong, sees an opportunity. Without Vietnam as a wedge, and with the Soviets weakening, Mao welcomes U.S. diplomats in 1969, 3 years before Nixon's 1972 visit in our timeline. Kennedy, still president until January 1969, sends Secretary of State Robert McNamara to Beijing, laying groundwork for trade. By 1970, U.S.-China relations warm. Think American factories in Shanghai a decade early, Chinese goods flooding U.S. markets. Globally, the U.S. pivots. With no Vietnam quagmire, Kennedy doubles down on Africa. More Peace Corps programs, less CIA coups, helping nations like Ghana resist Soviet influence. The Middle East cools, without CIA meddling. Iran's Shah faces less unrest, possibly delaying the 1979 revolution. Kennedy's America, a beacon of peace and equality from episodes 4 and 5, leads by example. The world takes note, and the Cold War's endgame tilts in democracy's favor. Chapter 5, A New America into the 1970s and beyond. At home, Kennedy's legacy reshapes America. Let's look long-term. He leaves office in 1969, passing the torch, maybe to his brother Robert Kennedy, elected in 1968 on a Keep the Peace platform. Without Vietnam, Watergate never happens. Nixon, in our timeline's 1972 scandal, never rises here. He loses to RFK. The deep state, crippled by CIA and FB reforms, can't regain its grip. Government transparency becomes the norm. Speculate further. By 1980, the U.S. has universal health care. Kennedy's 1966 Medicare push from Episode 3 evolves faster, without war costs. Racial equality, boosted in Episode 5, deepens. Black political power surges, with a speculative first black president by 1992, not 2008. Culturally, the 1970s are less cynical. No war trauma, no Watergate distrust. Think more Woodstock vibes, less punk rebellion. Globally, a stronger U.S., unscarred by Vietnam, leads a more united West. The 21st century dawns with less division, more cooperation. Chapter 6, The Fuse Burns Bright. Kennedy's Cold War rebalance isn't just a win, it's a new world order, a deep state defeated, a future brighter than ours. This is the finale of the Shadow Carapace's 6-part saga, and what a ride it's been. Big love to Syllabi. They're the AI masterminds who took my chaotic ideas and crafted scripts that hit like a freight train. Without them, I'd be lost in the shadows, scribbling nonsense. They're the heartbeat of this series, so check them out in the description below. And Suno, those sonic wizards whipped up the tense synthwave vibes you've heard, pulling you into this alternate history. They're why my soundtracks slap. Give them love in the description too. Smash that like, subscribe, ring the bell. What alternate history should we tackle next? Comment. Would Kennedy's peace vision have changed our world? Share this. Let's make it explode.